Alrighty, so I had a question from a client, Anthony, today about is squatting with your knees over your toes bad? So I get this question a lot, and everyone asks me it quite a fair bit, so I thought I'd just make a video, so get it out there, a bit more information, because I feel like it's very poorly misunderstood. There's a lot of PTs, allied health professionals, osteos, physios, chiros, whatever out there who are stuck in this kind of old age of knees over toes is the worst thing you can possibly do. If your knees go over your toes, you're going to get injured, and it's horrible, alright? So that's not true. So instead of being stuck in the old age of that, let's explain why knees over the toes can actually be a good thing when you squat, when to use it and when not to use it, and the benefits and risks involved with that. If you're there, kind of say hello, ask me questions as you go. So I got the whiteboard behind me. As you can see, I'm very high tech with my art. So what I'm going to go through is just talk about a squat first, and then we're going to go through exactly why you should choose one over the other. Okay? So when we squat, most people generally have the bar on their back. This is a conventional method, yeah. And what happens is, obviously you stick your bum back, you lean forward, chest comes forward, butt goes back, yeah. What that's doing is you're creating a smaller angle at the hip joint, okay, which means an acute angle at the hip joint means there's going to be more torque loading, aka force through the hip joint, and the knees stay very vertical. So what that's doing is loading up the hip joint, which is loading up the muscles around the hip joint, aka like the glutes, adductor magnus, etc. And there's not much loading through the knees. Okay, so that's what everyone does. But there's also, the knees over the toes squat, and everyone says this is really bad, you shouldn't do it. But no one, if you pick them up on it, most of them won't have a clue about why it's bad. They just kind of get stuck in the, it's bad, blanket term, really bad. But how do Olympic lifters squat? How do people front squat? When you look at a tennis player, look at a football player, when they jump, when they run, when they lean forward for the ball, are their knees going over their toes? Yes. Do they get injured? No. The other thing to look at is if they're doing that in a game, 50 times a game, and they have piss weak knees and quads because they haven't done any work relevant to that, they're going to get injured. So in terms of injury prevention, it's actually really good to do. So what you have to look at is 5 main factors for when you're picking your squat. So first of all, actually 7. First of all, the bar has to stay over the midfoot. So this is this line here. So dotted line, bar goes from the back and should end up the loading through the midfoot. So you cut the foot in half, in the middle, that's the midfoot, okay? That keeps the weight evenly distributed so you don't end up tilting forward or backwards and causing any damage on your back, okay? So, first of all, what is their goal? Is their goal to target more the quads and the knee or the hip and the glutes? If you got a power lifter who wants to get strong as and just lift real heavy, probably more beneficial to be doing a hip break squat where the hips go back and all the loading's going through the glutes and the adductors because they're bigger muscles, they can move more weight. Conversely, if you're training an Olympic lifter doing a clean and jerk and snatch and all that kind of stuff, if you look at their position at the bottom of a squat, it's going to look very much more so like this one here with an upright torso and knees progress forward compared to a power lifter who's going to be very bent over, hips shooting back. Okay, so the first part is the goal. What are you trying to target? It could even be a weakness. If their quads are their weak point, it might be beneficial to do a block of front squats to build up the quads to target that weakness. Conversely, same thing with the hips. If the glutes are weak and they're real quad dominant, you might want to do a block of low bar squats or back squats to target that. Second thing you have to look out for is injury profile and is it safe to do so. So again, if they've got an injury, say an acute injury, they've done a knee recently, it's not going to be a good idea. That's when knees over toes are going to be bad. You're trying to avoid the force through the knee, so aka reduce the torque loading through the knee to take the force away from that to protect the knee while you can still squat. So if I've got someone who's injured, has a knee injury, it doesn't necessarily mean they can't squat. It just means that you've got to adjust accordingly to their profile and state to keep it safe but still get progression. Doesn't mean, alright, piss off for 8 weeks and then come back. That's 8 weeks wasted when you could be still training them to get results. Just being smart about it and just being safe about it. Okay? So third part is kind of ties in that is mobility. It doesn't necessarily mean injury, but if people are restricted in certain joints, say their hips are real tight, they don't have the flexibility to get into that back hip position, might be, or conversely for the front squat position, that's something you need to take into consideration, and either one, if you don't have the skill set, refer out to increase that mobility, or if you do a lot of joint mobilization work, soft tissue, manual therapy to increase the range of motion through those joints. Fourth point kind of ties in with the fifth one as well, so joint angles and torque loading. So I've got here on the board like little red circles around the joints. So as you can see, the hip is quite an acute angle, the knee is quite straight. So that means all the torque loading is increased at the hip and the knee is reduced, which means you're going to need a lot of hip mobility, but not a lot of ankle mobility. So if you've got someone who's got real shit ankle mobility, but they're quite flexible through their hips, that's going to be a good squat for them. But if you've got someone who's got shit ankle mobility and you're trying to get them to a front squat, their knees can't progress over their toes, which involves a lot of dorsiflexion at the ankle. They're not going to be kept that upright position, so they're either going to compensate and lean forward, putting a lot of shear forces through their low back, causing risk of injury, or it's just going to be a shit squat. Either way, it's not going to be the best benefit to risk ratio, high risk of injury, and you're not going to get much benefit because it's not really targeting the right muscles anyway. So if you look at that on the board, as you can see, more upright torso, bar will be on the front, knees have to come forward to keep that weight over the midline of the midfoot. Okay? If we lean forward, the bar's going to fall, or we're not going to load up the right muscles. Okay? So as you can see, that means there's more torque loading through the knee, more ankle mobility required, and less mobility through the hips. And we're targeting more the quads now. Okay? So the last thing you got to consider is movement patterns. So I kind of touched on it at the start. This is more for athletes or sports specific stuff. If you've got an athlete who is playing tennis, for example, think about someone does a drop shot, it goes over the net, and they've got to quickly sprint like hell to get there and do like a full lunge to quickly get it back. Are they standing like this, or are they standing knee over toe, completely extended, a lot of knee progression over the toe? If you haven't trained them up to have that conditioning through the knee in terms of getting the strength and the mobility under load, and you're just doing back squats, hip dominant, glutes, like everyone in the industry says now, the glutes are the powerhouse. Yeah, they are, but at the same time, there's other things to consider for an athlete. As soon as they do that, the knee's going to be fucked. Mind the French, but yeah, we need to consider movement patterns as an important part of their programming and be smart about it, not just throw random shit at a wall and hope it sticks by giving just exercise for the sake of it. So think about your programming and be smart about it. Make sure it's one, specific to their goal, two, they've got the profile to actually do it. You're not just making them do something that's going to get them injured, because an injured athlete is a shit athlete. Or if you're injured, you're not going to lose weight, lose fat, get muscly, because if you're injured, you can't train. All right, so demotivating and you're wasting time in the process. Three, have they got the mobility? So that kind of ties in. Is there restrictions at certain joints? Can we fix that? Is it functional? Yes, we can fix it. Is it structural? No, refer out, osteo, physio, chiro, get them to do their work, come back. And then there's considerations of the torque loading and the joint angles of where we're actually loading up and what muscles we're going to be targeting. Okay, so that was kind of a quick overview. I know I talk pretty fast, so apologies if that was a bit hectic. Any questions, either just give us a comment or message me on Facebook, and I'm happy to answer those. But just to summarize, basically, in simple short term, if you have a bar on the back and your hips are going back, it's more of a hip break squat. You're going to be targeting more glutes, adductors, more load through the hips compared to a front squat, knees over the toes, more load through the knees and the quads, and more of an upright torso. Okay, so again, depends on what you're trying to target. Go away. It depends on what you're trying to target. And just take these things into consideration when you're actually programming. Don't just do random shit that you saw on Facebook. Always think critically. Even this video you're watching now, don't just take what I say. Go away, practice it in the gym, have a feel for it yourself, feel the differences, read, learn, and try and take the good and the bad from everything. But for the love of God, can we just stop saying that knees over the toes are bad and it's a blanket term and you're going to get injured if your knees are over your toes? Okay? Because it's completely not true. People just don't understand the concepts behind why you do it. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. And I know I kind of swear a bit. Sorry, I get pretty into it. If you got any more questions, hit me up, or any other topics you want me to cover. I'm just going to start making a fair few more videos. So if you don't like looking at my head, I apologise. Unfollow me because there's more to come. So any questions, hit me up. Hope you found that helpful and enjoy the rest of your day. See you guys.